Good morning, Maya Bayabak. Here's the plan. We'll try and have a little bit of a look at what the aircon guys are up to today. From a dummy's perspective, obviously. We might get to see the next step in the evolution of our swimming pool. The guys are already mixing up a boatload of concrete, so we'll see what that's all about. Obviously, we will continue to follow the progress of walls inside the house, and maybe more plastering, plus the perimeter wall. How close are we to getting that completed? Not long, I suspect. What could possibly go wrong? Time for a morning walk around, and I am of course late after yet another visit to the vet. Something pretty minor, we think, but if I don't get their VIP status in the next week, I'm finding a new vet. We'll start here. I was wrong, as always. They worked on this last night, a couple of them. We have a roof over our shed stroke compost bins. It's coming along. The answer to what comes next is hand packing inside the walls for the island. They are not putting the waterproofing mixture into this material yet. That will come when they start, after the hand packing, and then they start the plastering process, which I suppose is still technically a little bit of hand packing, or technically not. Somebody tell me. Anyway, the point is, no waterproofing in this mix yet, but that is still to come, because clearly there is ongoing water pressure coming up, particularly in rainy season when the water table is at its highest. So it will be waterproofed inside as well as the exterior walls. Right, here we are, back with the Aisha team. It's Donald's fault, he told me that one, he's up there. So getting the remaining sections of this south facing bit of the wall around the corner, getting the beams ready for pouring. And then if we swing around, dig in. So preparing the way to get this wall down. The only saving grace for these guys digging in on a blisteringly hot day is they do have a little bit of shade for now. So not quite as bad as it could be. We have scaffolding being erected, presumably ahead of plastering. That's new on this side. There's not a lot of activity downstairs at the moment. We do have one of the aircon crew is down here, but this is new. The separating wall between the kitchen, and there will be a door here, going down towards the west side of the house. So Marvin is working on that one. So here we've got a couple of the aircon crew are working on the master suite. And we will come back and have a look in more detail a little bit later in the day. This is the front bedroom on the north side, on the right as you face the front of the house. And we have got Marvin and Romwell continuing with the outside walls here. So the latest estimate that I was given this morning is that all of the walls in the whole house are now expected to be finished by Monday, next Monday, and today is Tuesday, so a little under a week to go. Quite a big change. I think the previous estimate was a little off. And here, our electrician working solo for now, continuing to add these junction boxes, chipping out, putting the junction box and then filling back in again. Richard is working on the doorway into the centre bedroom at the back of the house. Richard says hello. Give Richard a like. Come on, like for Richard. Back in the kitchen for a moment, there was a great question from Joe Frugate, who asked about tops of doors, where he's seen on other build series, they basically put a concrete beam across the top of the door. And the question was, why are we using these metal frames? Well, even the metal frames here are only temporary. The engineer says that because the spans are narrow, even where we have double doors, there's no need for anything. These doors are high. There is clearly not a lot of concrete hollow block above them. The final door frames will be metal. So the engineer says nothing is required. So we do end up with just this layer of concrete underneath, and then the metal door frame goes into that. I hope that answers the question, and I hope the builders amongst you agree. A couple of days ago, I talked about our selection process for our air conditioning. I thought today I'd follow it up with a little bit about the connections and what they're working on right now to get those air conditioning units installed. As a quick preface to that, split air conditioning units, that's what we're using. A couple of people in comments have talked about central air conditioning units, and we did look at that, but the reality of it was that here at least, I don't know about elsewhere in the world, the pricing we were getting was very roughly 3 times the price. So it wasn't an option. So we've gone with split air conditioning units, which fundamentally means 1 unit inside, 1 unit outside. Right, connections. Air conditioning units fundamentally have 3 connections. Electricity for power, refrigerant, and water, drainage if you like. Let's take those one at a time. Easy one first, electricity. They all run on electricity. So those connections need to be made, and that is standard electrical connections. All of the connections they're making will run through conduit to protect the wires. Refrigerant, which is sometimes more generically known as gas, and you may have heard the term Freon. Well, Freon is just a brand. Good marketing by those guys. So let me read you what the Daikin website says is refrigerant. It says, and I quote, "Refrigerant is a medium for conveying heat. Air conditioners transfer heat while circulating refrigerant between indoor and outdoor units." Heat for cooling, there you go, didn't know that. So with the split air conditioning type, you have an indoor unit, as I said, and an outdoor unit. The indoor unit might be known as the evaporator, and the outdoor unit is more commonly known as a condenser. So it needs that refrigerant to be transferred, and that transfer is done through copper pipes. And those copper pipes will have different diameters, and that depends on 2 different things. Number 1, the horsepower, and number 2, whether it is going in one direction or the other. They refer to it, I've seen, as the high side and the low side. The high side is sometimes called the discharge side. So that's going from the indoor unit to the outdoor unit. And the low side, not surprisingly, is going in the other direction. The refrigerant that is being used here is known with the nomenclature of R32. R32 seems to be one of the more recent types that they're using, and its claims to fame are, number 1, somehow it has a greater ability to save on electricity, and number 2, it has a lower global warming potential, GWP. In other words, it does less damage, they claim, to the environment. And the claims that I've seen say that R32, compared to other very commonly used refrigerants at the moment, can be up to 30% less damaging to the environment. Still damaging, but less damaging. Right, so pipe sizes, copper pipe sizes. There's a lot of variation, and it does depend, as I said, on the horsepower. So in our case, the highest horsepower we have is 2.5, and the size of pipe that is being used on the high side, the discharge side, is 5/8 of an inch, or roughly 1.6 centimeters. On the low side, it is 1/4 of an inch, which I think is roughly 0.6 of a centimeter. All of those copper pipes will be encased in a rubber sleeve, if you like, which is there as effectively an insulator to try to minimize the temperature change as that gas travels along the pipe. And we do have long pipe runs because of our insistence that all of the outside units, all the condensers, are on the north side of the house where they won't be seen so much. So it is important to try not to lose or to change that temperature too much while the gas, the R32, is in transit. And finally, water. One of the things that air conditioning units do is they dehumidify. They remove water, and that water becomes what seems to be termed as condensate water, and that's got to go somewhere, otherwise it will just leak all over your room. So that water is carried away from the interior units. It's not used on external units. It's carried away from the internal units in PVC pipe, and here they are using 3/4 of an inch PVC, which is roughly 1.9 centimeters. So that's the connections that they're working on today. One other comment I received, not in the comment section, but directly from Stephen P, was asking about any concerns with the exterior units being pretty close together, and they are. And were there any concerns with environmental issues or anything else? Well, I spoke to the contractors this morning, and they have said that the units will be at a minimum 10 centimeters apart, and they will make sure that there is nothing blocking the rear of those condensing units which could cause a problem. They are not aware of any issues that could arise with that kind of positioning. Not aware. Not saying definitely no. Right, there you go. That is my guide to connections for aircon, for, I was going to say aircon for dummies, but no one's as big a dummy as me, so we'll call it the aircon virgins. For many of you, that will have been way too lowbrow, and I apologise for that. But the target here is to try to look at all of these building things from the viewpoint of somebody who knows nothing, which is clearly me. So what would I want to hear? That was what it was. If you want more, I'm afraid you're going to have to look at Google. Later on today, we will have a quick look at the guys in action. Right, here, the swimming pool. With sound this time, take 2, hopefully. The hand packing inside is continuing pretty rapidly. They are all the way around the inside, almost up to the top. So very good progress, still with a couple of hours to go today. Take 2 up here. Well, it's take 2 everywhere from now on. Marvin's getting the spa area wall sorted out. There is a high wall in here. They've just added one more level of concrete hollow block, and now he's going up the sides of the window. So this is well on its way. On the south wall of the house, scaffolding going higher. Right here, one of the aircon crew, we're putting in a drain. We did have a little bit of an issue here where I think there was a miscommunication, and it was missed out the fact that the door here is going higher. So the engineers just had a word, and we've stopped chipping out the concrete hollow blocks for the drains below the beam and started to go into the beam. This is the helper's bathroom, and the blue pipe that you can probably make out is the drainage. It's the blue PVC pipe, 3/4 inch, to take the condensate water off somewhere. Now you have to be careful with condensate water. There are numerous cases have been reported particularly in industrial sites like hospitals, where that condensate water can have nasty things in it, can lead to things like Legionnaire's disease. So we don't really want this water going straight back into drinking water. Not quite sure how they're dealing with that, but I'm sure there is a plan. I read somewhere that a goldfish has a memory of 30 seconds. So if you can give it a bowl that it takes it 30 seconds to swim from one end to the other, it is constantly on a voyage of discovery. I am a goldfish right now. I can't remember if this wall was done this morning. I think it was. But there is some semi-wet plaster up above the windows. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I'm going for a swim. Back in the front bedroom on the right side as you look at the house. Ronwell nearly has this north-facing wall completely done. The bathroom is done, although I'm not sure if the two top tie beams have been poured. Forms are all on there. There will, I imagine still, I mentioned the other day, there'll have to be a little bit of chipping out of the floor to get the entire wet room so that it is at a lower level as per code here. Once again, our bad, we moved the wall. But the front, I think this is where we were earlier on, just above the windows left to be done. This is the last wall in the house to be started, and it's the wall between the bedroom in the middle at the back and the walk-in closet. The bell's rung, 4:30. The day is done. Back at the perimeter wall. I don't think the top beams are poured, but they're all ready to be poured. And going around the corner, they have the tie beam in the first section and a bit, and they have added, they've dug out more, and they've added and concreted in a couple more columns and more tie beam. They have, by the looks of things, one more impediment to remove, one tree stump and a bit that doesn't look as if it should cause them too many problems. We're talking days, not weeks, before this is done, providing the neighbour's wall doesn't fall down as it did before. At the pool, they have finished the hand packing for the inside of the seating area, not of the platform, and it is a relatively smooth finish on most of it, which is not what I was expecting. What's next? Well, finishing off the rest of the smoothing on the inside of this seating area, and then I don't know whether they move on to the platform part or whether they start on another coat with waterproofing here for the seating area. We'll see tomorrow what they do. One of the Marvins, the tall one, with more tattoos, that can do a standing backflip, did more work on this wall for the spa. So he's got, you can see it is a very narrow window, which is really all we need, but he's got that beam in across the top, ready to do more tomorrow. Just for a change, we'll look at the bedroom on the north side at the front from outside instead of inside. Maybe you get a better sense for it from here. Ronwell plus others have continued with the walls here, so they are up to where the tops of the windows are, as you can see. The wall on the right side, on the north side, is done. The wall between the bedroom and the bathroom, it has the tie beam in, it's formed. I don't know if that is poured, but they are close on this one. The aircon guys have been chipping out and adding blue PVC drainage pipe all day long, and they're still here. A little bit of tidy up going on. I'm not sure what time they'll finish today, but presumably not too much longer. This is the same bedroom we were just looking at from outside the house. I wasn't sure about these tie beams here and the one behind it. They are poured. Good afternoon, Maya Buktu. And still going. The aircon guys with chipping in this bedroom at the back of the house on the north side. Lastly, this new wall in the bedroom at the back in the middle between the bedroom and the walk-in closet, roughly halfway up. For anybody who's counting, the end of day 121. There was a lot more chipping going on inside the house. There was no more plastering. But overall, another one of those days that an awful lot of different things were going on. Nearly there with walls. Nearly. Right. See you tomorrow.